sound test.
Yeah, hang on, just let me get the. Thursday. Oh, there's you. You got it.
Yeah, live and exclusive.
O blessed one, Shakyamuni Buddha.
Good. Yeah, it's 20, right, 27. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Special glass or normal?
Yeah, special glass.
Oh, whiskey tumbler.
Oh, yes. So,
Yes. You okay, Steve? No?
Well, most of the best I've seen pro riders drop a chain, but they sometimes get it back on.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. Yeah.
usually if it's
Oh, no, sorry, no.
yeah.
Hi guys.
Who owns the state? Shit, what else are they? As the-
Is it Andrew? You're good. Last week, weren't you? But there's then it all came back.
We will do.
Sit by us. So you can just on the ends by yeah. So I hope you don't mind shaking it up. That's it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the centre. Usual thing I say, can everyone turn their phone off or put it on silent? I like to avoid beeping during the talk. I don't know if you know, Pauline is doing the talk again this evening. I think it's talk 2 of 3. Does anyone know? Fantastic teacher, and I'm sure she'll have some words of wisdom for us. So enjoy this evening. Thank you. Hello.
Cheers.
So it's horizontal.
go. Sit down.
O blessed one, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet and my strong wish to rely upon you. May all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dhamma flourish forevermore.
Can you hear me all right? Is that better now? Could you not hear in the meditation? Oh dear, sorry. Well, so this evening I wanted to talk about, it's an important step in a Buddhist path. It's called renunciation. So you may have heard it and you may not. Or you may have heard it and not quite got the right idea about it, because sometimes it's a little bit misunderstood as well, because it sounds as if it's a mind of denial, doesn't it? You know, really sometimes that, you know, we're not, that we're not engaging in the world, maybe, and disappearing from the world. But it doesn't mean that it's a happy mind. So I'm hoping to explain that. And we can do a meditation on it, and we can see how we can benefit from it. Now, I want to know if there's anybody here who's got no problems. Great, that's good. Either you're a Buddha or you're in a very fortunate patch at the moment. So, problems, so others of you have, I've said you have got some problems. So problems, if we check through our life, you know, even in a very short life, we're constantly dealing with problems, aren't we? We'll get one, and then maybe we'll sort it out, maybe we won't. And then it's not so long, is there? Sometimes there's a little, if we're lucky, and we've only got one problem, there's a little period where there doesn't seem to be any problems, everything seems to be in order. But before long, something else comes along, right? You know, even when you thought everything, just when you thought everything was sorted out, something will happen. It's a bit like being in the ocean, and waves keep coming at us, you know, they keep going over us. We just about get our feet on the ground, and then another one comes. And we say that, don't we? We sometimes say, I'm just about keeping my head above water. We have that saying, don't we, as well? We have that feeling, you know, of just being on your tiptoes and trying to keep everything steady. So Buddha explained about this, that it's natural. It's actually the natural way of things at the moment, that problems keep coming. You know, they keep coming. They're not going to stop. You know, unless we do something about it. So he called this the ocean of suffering. So in How to Transform Your Life, if you've not been here before, this book, we use this a lot in this book. I've used this book a lot, like maybe for years, and I still find something new in it as well. So it's it's a very good entry-level book, but it's a very useful book for anybody. And we've got copies of it, or you can get a free download as well, if you can get it onto your phone if you want to have a look at it and see what it is. So on page 187, it mentions the ocean of suffering. The term ocean of suffering has great significance. The ocean of suffering is very different from an ordinary ocean. Each and every part of an ordinary ocean is the nature of water, true. But each and every part of the ocean of suffering is the nature of suffering. Yeah. An ordinary ocean has an end, but the ocean of suffering is endless. All living beings are drowning in this endless ocean of suffering. Although they're looking for happiness day and night, in the ocean of suffering, there is no happiness at all. Through through thinking and contemplating this, we generate wishing love, a sincere wish, sincerely wishing to lead all living beings to pure happiness of enlightenment. So in this chapter he's talking about thinking about it, about others, but today I want to think about ourselves. An ordinary ocean has an end, but the ocean of suffering is endless. Now, I know you didn't want to hear that on a Thursday night. You wanted to be cheered up, didn't you? So I would just say to you that Buddha also taught how to escape from the ocean of suffering as well. So that there is probably it's a happy ending as well. But it's important, isn't it, to realise that, because what we're doing at the moment is we're having one problem after another, aren't we? We're continually solving problems. If you check your whole life, we've been continually solving problems, and probably will continue our whole life to do that too. We've got this sort of hope, haven't we, that one day we'll sort it all out. How's that going? Are you nearly there? No. Anyway, so we think that we will. We think that we need to check these things really in our mind, isn't it? And think, do I really think that once this is sorted out, everything's going to be sorted out? No. So I'd like to tell you about Buddha's life story. This is a nice story. If you haven't heard it before, if you've not been before, you won't have heard it. But if you have, some of you have heard it many times before. But we love this story. If we know it, we love it. So Buddha was born about 2,600 years ago in India, I think is now Nepal. And he was very nobly born. He was a prince. His father was a king, and he was expected to be the next king. That's what his father hoped for him. So, and he was very fortunate the way he was born. And he was also very fortunate in what he could do. He was one of these people who make you a bit sick, really, because they're so good at everything. So he was like really, really good. Everything he did, he was good at sport, he was good at mathematics, he was good looking, and he was a nice person as well. So he had all these attributes. So really you could say he had everything, couldn't you? He had everything that we wish for. Everybody looked after him, everybody wanted him to be happy, and everybody was giving him everything that he could. Now one day he went out of the palace in which he lived. Everything was very nice in the palace. And he didn't see anything unpleasant. If there was anything unpleasant, they whipped it away quickly before he could see it. But he went out into the streets outside the palace, and he saw suffering. So he saw aging, very old people we'd never seen. There was always young people in the palace, and people who were sick. And he saw death as well was in those days, and still now I think in India you might see, it's more likely to see dead body in the street. So he saw those things, but he was very, very shocked because it hadn't been his experience before. And he wanted to know why. Why? That was his question. Why does this suffering have to happen? So he decided that that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to find out why. So he went back to his father and asked his father if he could leave the palace and go and find out why. And his father didn't want him to. So his father tried to persuade him, and his mother and everyone in the palace. No, stay, and they got him more nice things. A beautiful wife, he had a child, and he did stay a bit longer. But he couldn't forget about suffering. It was constantly on his mind. He needed to go. And so what he did eventually was, it was overwhelming that he needed to leave, and his father wasn't going to let him leave. And so by some mystical thing happened, everybody in the palace fell asleep. And while they were asleep, he made his escape. And so what followed after that was a period where he was searching every kind of spiritual path in order to find out what was the nature of suffering. And he tried many things, and some of them were very, a lot of deprivation with them, many different paths. And in the end, he finally found a way which he called the middle way, which was not too harsh, a bit more relaxed, not too tight, not too loose. In other words, not too sloppy. And so he meditated, and in his final moments of training his mind, he meditated under the Bodhi tree. You'll have heard of, won't you, the Bodhi tree? It's actually a real tree. It was a real person, and the tree's still there, or its descendants are still there as well. So under the tree, he finally meditating all night, and he reached enlightenment. He purified his mind, and he realized that he was out of suffering. Suffering wasn't happening for him anymore, because in his meditation and in his purification, he was an enlightened being. And after that, he was asked to teach. And so he wanted to then teach everybody how to be free from suffering. So he taught. So he began to teach and taught thousands. He taught for more than 40 years. He wanted everybody to know how to escape from suffering. And his lineage is a pure lineage, which is up to this day, to our lineage. It's a pure unbroken lineage from Buddha Shakyamuni, from the teachings. So the teachings that he taught then about how to escape from suffering, we still have. And it's not as if, I just want to say this because I always get the wrong end of the stick. I was thinking, well, how can it be the same, like it was 2,600 years ago? Chinese whispers, it changes, doesn't it, from one friend to another? How can it be the same? But what happens is each guru, each teacher has learned and actualized that teaching as well. So they've experienced the same experience as Buddha Shakyamuni. And we've got an unbroken lineage in our tradition that says that the teachings are exactly the same. And if you put those teachings into practice, you'll get exactly the same result as Buddha Shakyamuni. Right? So that's amazing, isn't it? So we can do that. So that's what he's saying. We can do that. And he's saying, so one of the first things he said was, you should know about suffering, as we've just said now about the ocean of suffering. He said you should know suffering, and so be aware of suffering. But we should also know that suffering is continuous. And he said there's three kinds of suffering. Gosh, one's bad enough, isn't it? But there's three. So the first one is called manifest suffering. So you might have experienced that. In Formby on Monday, a woman had toothache. So we said, there you go. She had manifest suffering. And the thing that's happening, that's making you feel as if you're suffering at the moment is manifest. It's actually happening. The second one is called changing suffering. And that's often what we actually call happiness. So that's what Buddha wanted to teach as well. He wanted to say, and we don't really know what is happiness. If you're out with a friend and maybe you want to have a deep conversation, you could say, what is happiness? It'd be interesting to see what they say. I asked my friend last night what was happiness, and she said, well, it's when something was going wrong and then it's better, right? She said that was happiness. Yeah. But Buddha would say that's changing suffering. That actually the basis of all our experience at the moment is suffering. And that when it changes, it gives us relief. Gives us relief, and we think that this is happiness. Yeah, that's really what we think, and we often settle. We settle for that, really. That is happiness. All the day, if you check, we're thinking, oh, can I get some relief? When we wake up in the morning, if we just get a cup of tea, maybe I'll be able to face the day. Don't we? Or maybe if I just see my friend, I'll feel a bit better. If maybe this friend goes away, maybe I'll feel a bit better. Or then we think, I want to eat. I'm hungry. I need to eat. Oh, I feel better. Often our partnerships are a little bit like that. Well, maybe check yourself, when was the happiest time of your life, just to see. I used to think that, sometimes it is when you've met someone, isn't it? You've met a partner. And really, a lot of that experience is beautiful, can be a very beautiful experience. But a lot of it is about relief, isn't it? Thank goodness I've finally found someone. Thank goodness someone likes me, or maybe I'm not lonely anymore. Those things. Even, so, I mean, you might disagree with me. We can talk about it later. I'm happy to discuss. But I used to think the happiest time was when I had my daughter. And it was a very happy time. If she's here she's always popping up somewhere. If here I was very happy that she was born, and I loved her. So I had a lot of love. Love is actually pure happiness. Yeah, I did love her. But an awful lot of that feeling of exuberance, exhilaration, like you could almost be scraped off the ceiling, couldn't you? Is relief. Relief that it's all gone okay. That it is okay. That do you see those differences? That it's over is a strong feeling as well. The feeling of not being pregnant anymore is wonderful. So there's relief even in those which are key moments as well, and that's changing suffering. And the way you can check whether it's real happiness or not is if something is true happiness, it will give us happiness continuously. If something is the source of something, it will always give us that. That's the way we look at it. So if light bulbs are a source of light, and the more light bulbs we have, the more light there'll be. And that will continue, won't it? So we can say that's a source of light. So if something is a source of happiness, it will always make us happy. But if we're really happy about food, we're really happy when we first get the food. But if someone says, will you have some more? We go, yeah, great, I'll have some more. And then they say, oh, please have some more. Please have some more. Oh, okay, thank you. And then, come on, have some more. We're like, and then it starts to make us feel sick, doesn't it? That. So we can see that food isn't a true source of happiness. Just from that, so we can check everything. Being with friends. Being with friends is lovely, isn't it? It makes us very happy. Have you ever been on holiday with a friend? Have you ever been on holiday with a friend for a long time? It starts to get more difficult, doesn't it, the longer we're with someone as well. So we can say that being with friends can be a true source of happiness. It depends on our mind, doesn't it? And then the third kind of suffering is pervasive suffering. So pervasive pervasive suffering means that suffering is continually pervading our experience. The experience of pervasive suffering, Buddha called it samsara, it's a cycle of suffering, whereas we are constantly suffering, and because we suffer, we create more suffering. It's like a wheel, a cycle of suffering. Geshe called it in his latest books, he called it impure life. So that if we look for happiness externally, we create negative minds, we create anger, attachment, and upset about loss, and then we create more suffering, and so our suffering continues. But it doesn't just continue in this life; it continues in life after life after life. So what Buddha wanted to say is, you should know suffering, but you should know that there's a way out of suffering. And the way out of suffering is through our mind. Samsara, the world of suffering, is the experience of a negative mind. So it's not a real place. It's sometimes talked about as if it's a place, where you can find it, you'll be stuck in it. And it's taught a little bit as if it's a place because of our experience of places, I think. We think this is a place and this is a way out of a place. But it's actually an experience of a negative mind. And if we change our experience, what we change is our world. So somebody could be having an experience, like a really good experience. They could be having a really happy experience. And someone, the next door neighbour in the same situation, maybe the same situation, could be having a hellish experience. Buddhist teaching talks about hell. I know we're not really that keen on thinking about hell nowadays. But what it's saying is hell it's created by the mind. We can have a hellish experience. People do. We know people who do. They feel that they're trapped, in an awful experience of their mind. So Buddha is saying to us, come out. Come out from the ocean of suffering. You can come out. Here he is again. We're in the ocean of suffering, and Buddha's up here in his helicopter, right? And he's, come out, we're going. And it's not so bad here. Like, we found a little island, I'll just relax on here for a bit, don't worry. And he's saying, no, come out when you can, because what you're doing is creating more suffering. There's going to be more. It's never going to end. But you can come out. He's got this hook of compassion. He's holding down, and he's holding it for us. And that's the teaching is, he says, you should know suffering, but you should know a way out of suffering. And the way out of suffering is maybe three things. We can do it by purifying. All the unhappy experiences that we have are created by our karma. Each one of us has an individual karma. And when something good happens or something bad happens, it's a result of our karma. It's a result of previous actions. It's quite a big subject, isn't it? But probably not for tonight. But it's just that is created. But if we can change our karma. It's not fatalistic. So one of the things to do is purify karma by changing, maybe simply by our love, instead of being angry with others, being patient with them, by loving them. Even, beginning with the people who are close to us, we love them, but we don't often show our love, do we? Or we take that for granted. So simply having a loving heart. In fact, love is a huge purifier, Love will purify everything, so we can use that patience, our kindness, all our positive minds, purify our karma. So they change our experience. When we have a pure mind, or as our mind goes forward, You know, those negative things aren't going to happen. That suffering isn't going to happen to us in the same way because we've purified. And we accumulate merit, and we do that by positive actions, by positive thoughts, all the things that we learn here. And the third thing is to receive blessings. We have to receive blessings. Buddha's blessings are all around us, so we need to be open to those too. So if we did those three things, that is going to take us out. It's going to take us out of that ocean of suffering. You know, we're beginning to be lifted out. On the blessings, I just wanted to, just a little side issue to say that how am I going to get blessings? We think, well, here at this Buddhist centre, we have prayers very regularly. We've had some today. We've had offering to spiritual guide. We have, they don't always fit into your life, but we do have a live stream for it as well, so you can ask Sudhana about it and see. But any prayers, if we're doing power prayers for the deceased, we say prayers regularly. There's prayers every week here. And what the prayers are doing is we're making offerings to Buddha, we're receiving blessings, and those blessings change our karma. They change its positive energy that we're soaking in. And actually, to be honest, sometimes with the prayers, you've no idea. Sometimes you think, I didn't even know what it was about, but I feel great. That sometimes happens too. So those are things that we can do. There's many, many things that we can do. We don't need that. That's the main thing I want to say tonight. We don't need to suffer. We don't need to suffer. So we change our mind just a small bit. It's not just little by little, day by day, and then we can be enthusiastic for it. We can go try it a little. I felt better. Maybe I was feeling very down, and I just sat very quietly in meditation for a while. I felt a bit better, and that's our proof. Geshe Kelsang Gyatso Rinpoche tells us that it's a scientific method. It's our own science. We're our own experiment, aren't we? I tried this. I felt better. We always get the same result. So little by little, we can change. So what do you think ourselves? We can have a choice. We don't have to do that. We can just live our life. This is our life we're talking about, isn't it? This is really important. It doesn't last very long. It's very precious. We never know when it's going to finish. We never know when we're going to be incapacitated either. So at the moment we've got good health, good bodies, good strength enough to be here. So we're all in good conditions. So we've got quite good conditions in Liverpool. I know we always think we'd like it to be better, but really, nobody's dropping bombs on us, are they? And nobody's stopping us from our religious, if we want to meditate, nobody's stopping us from coming. We've got excellent condition. We've got a way of doing things. We've got teachings that we can follow. They're nice and simple. We can put them into practice. So really, sometimes we think, well, that sounds okay. I think next life I'll have a human life and I'll sort it all out then. But this is like the best condition. Really, these are the best conditions that we've got. Even when we've got difficult circumstances, we've got suffering that comes to us. But if suffering, once we understand about the nature of suffering, then we can actually use our suffering. Buddha said suffering has many good qualities. We can use them. We can use them to train our mind. We can use them to keep our mind steady. We can use them to learn. We can think, what can I learn from this? And then we're always advancing spiritually. Whatever's happening in our life, we're becoming stronger, stronger. We've got stronger and stronger minds, more patient, more able to help others as well. So we're advancing. So we can do that. Or we can just decide, well, this is what Buddha said, you know, we're going to experience in samsara, we experience birth, aging, sickness and death. And as well as that, we don't get what we want, we get what we don't want, and we lose what we have. So that sounds like the story of my life anyway. So he said, you know, all those things. And so sometimes we can say, well, I'm going to die anyway, never mind, you know, that's okay. You know, and that's a choice, isn't it? We can do that. But we can use our life, you know, we've got such an opportunity, such a precious opportunity in order to develop wisdom and compassion and actually free ourselves. So we're actually free from suffering. And that's renunciation. It's like a wish. It's a wish to be free. So this book's called Great Treasury of Merit. I've been reading this lately. It's a bit of a big book, this one. I wouldn't advise it just for beginning, but you never. If you're drawn to it, you know, have a look. But he explains in here that so renunciation is the mind that we're looking at. We're looking at, oh, I've suffered so much in my life, and I want to be free from it. You know, I want to escape from it. It's not a nice thing, you know, because we often think. The thing about samsara is it's very deceptive. It sometimes seems really lovely. Yeah. So it sometimes seems like a friend as well. So we think, oh, you know, this is nice, and often people do. Often they are unhappy. We experience this sometimes here in classes, that people come because they're unhappy, and they get, you know, a lot of merit. They get a lot of blessings. They get a lot of understanding about Buddha's teaching, and the whole life turns out better. You know, sometimes they get a great job and you get material things and maybe a lovely partner, and they think, oh, I'm sorted now. You know, and then they go off and forget the spiritual path. But and I've been around here long enough to notice that sometimes people come back after a while. They think, oh, I think it, you know, it didn't quite turn out like I wasn't sorted the way I thought, and that's quite good, really. It gives us, you know, it gives us evidence of our own, you know, that we can't really do it on our own, you know, that we can't do it. It gives us that evidence, and then we come back, and that is really what samsara's face. Sometimes seems like everything's sorted. Some people seem to have everything, you know, they've got a very good, you know, they've got very, very good conditions, very good resources, beautiful people around them, same as Buddha, you know, sometimes people have. But then something will happen, you know. We hear that and we can look at that in our life. This is our evidence about samsara, really. Children die. You know, these things happen. You know, people die, people get sick. You know, we think that samsara is giving us everything, but you know, when we get cancer and we get sick, it's our spiritual life that's going to help us. You know, not our external life. And this is when samsara shows its ugly face. You know, it looks like a friend. It looks like one of these men who try to contact me on the internet, you know, from America, American GIs. Do you have those? They seem very attractive. And sometimes people, you know, they are attached to that and start sending their money, don't they? You know, it looks like happiness, you know, it looks like happiness. But what's really there is just fake. It's just fake. And we can see that in our life. We can start to experience it. We can see that people are looking for happiness but finding only suffering without being, you know, it just arouses our compassion, really, rather than but ourselves. We can see all around us evidence of this, you know, that people aren't getting the true happiness, you know, when we see what samsara is really like. We can see that people age. We can see that we age ourselves. We can see that life is not infinite, that it's going to go. And then we can say that's the truth, and our mind is in line with the truth. We can enjoy ourselves, but we don't get too excited. We can, and then when difficult things happen, we can learn from those too. So we have a balanced mind. It's not going, oh, this is great, oh, this is terrible, up and down, all the time. And so it's a happy mind. You think, wow, that's amazing, I'm going to do that. And so even though we have to contemplate suffering to generate renunciation itself is not a gloomy mind. It is it's happy in the knowledge that there is a way to become free from samsaric suffering. And it joyfully engages in the practices that lead to liberation. Whereas an ordinary samsaric mind oscillates between elation and despondency, renunciation is a balanced mind that is constantly positive. Yeah. So, and he also says, that whilst we're practicing Dharma, we don't need to go over the top with it either. You don't have to give up everything. We just enjoy. We should continue to associate with our friends and family, look after our health, feed and clothe ourselves, and practice Dharma in a comfortable and intelligent manner. A sick person does not enjoy taking medicine, but does so out of necessity. And in the same way, if we have renunciation, we're not attached to food, clothing, and so forth, but we partake of them in moderation so as to create good conditions for our Dharma practice. Yeah. And we can look around us and see the truth of that. And he quotes Milarepa. Milarepa was a Buddhist saint. Now, he didn't have any attachment to clothing. I think he didn't have any clothing on sometimes, actually, or just like a bit of a rag. But don't go there. He said, Milarepa said, I have no need of books because all the objects around me are books. From these I learn about death and impermanence, the disadvantages of samsara, and the emptiness of all phenomena as well. So let's do a meditation. The meditation is really a wish to escape. Okay? It's a wish to escape. I'm going to take that hook and I'm going to go with it. So we can reflect on what you've heard to begin with. And then we may come up with a determination. Do you know what? I'm going to escape. A strong wish to escape, to be free, that feeling of freedom. And that's the object of the meditation. But I'll guide you through. Do you want to just make yourself comfortable? Just go slowly into your meditation. So we're near the end of the evening, but without thinking ahead, just staying in the room, staying in your meditation seat. And just relaxing, letting everything go outside of your meditation space. We can think about the ocean of suffering to begin with. The term ocean of suffering has great significance. The ocean of suffering is very different from an ordinary ocean. Each and every part of an ordinary ocean is the nature of water. But each and every part of the ocean of suffering is the nature of suffering. An ordinary ocean has an end, but the ocean of suffering is endless. So we can maybe think about our own experience. And Buddha is saying to us, you don't need to suffer. You can be happy. You can be blissfully happy, not just temporary happiness going from one thing to another. You can be truly happy. It's actually quite simple. We just have to look for happiness and create it in our own mind. There's nothing wrong with you, you're just looking in the wrong place. And so as you contemplate, you may come to a decision that you want to learn and change your mind. It's such a light mind. It's a mind of freedom. And so if you feel a lighter mind, a mind of happiness and joy, but just let that fill your heart. Just a happy mind from within. We just concentrate on that for the rest of the meditation. If you lose that object of meditation, if you lose that happy feeling, just go back to the contemplation. Go back to something that moved you. That sense of freedom. and see if you can generate that mind again. Now this evening we've generated some very positive minds by meditating, listening, contemplating. And just keep that positive energy in your heart. Dedicate it to your own freedom from suffering, for yourself, and so that you can benefit everyone around you. And then relax your concentration when you're ready. Thank you. Lovely, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. If you've got any questions, I'll be outside. Thank you.
Anybody wants to see a copy of this?